I think we're good in that. We don't like rules that much in Italy. There are other European countries more prone to obedience than Italian.
Lugano's Plan B podcast presents Bitcoin is Activism with Rikki and Anna Chekhovich.
What is the hardest part of being a Bitcoin activist? Is there such a thing as a Bitcoin activist?
I don't know. I don't understand why it takes so much to understand that the crucial part of Bitcoin is, censorship resistant, and there is a tool that is being developed as a political instrument. I mean, if you think about it, let's go back to the genesis. Cypherpunks were activists, literally cypherpunks, no? We are cypherpunk, we write code. It's a fist pointed up at in the air. If you read Satoshi Nakamoto, obviously he's an activist and he built Bitcoin to be a tool, potentially to revolutionize the entire world. But there is such a friction, and it's very hard to explain to normies, it's not a nice word, but I guess who's watching are Bitcoiners or other activists, why it's the most powerful tool to protect financial freedom and human rights all over the world. You guys at the HRF are doing an amazing job now promoting Bitcoin also with other human rights NGOs, but it takes time.
I see that it takes less and less time with my experience. Like 2 or 3 years ago, I was traveling to different Bitcoin conferences, and this topic, Bitcoin for activists, it was not popular, and the rooms were empty when an activist was on the stage talking about it. And I heard this like, oh, it's something about politics, and I want Bitcoin to be out of politics. I'm not going to listen to that. And I see a significant shift, like 2-3 years after. Now those rooms are full of people. Everyone understands that Bitcoin is a powerful tool that can help activists to make the world a better place. And people realize that developers are actually also activists, because if you develop some tools that can help to build democracy, you are an activist doing that. So yeah, it's a significant shift right now happening.
Hopefully, it's going to be faster and easier in the near future, because there's so much, to be done still.
There are like lots of negative narratives about Bitcoin still, but as for me, it takes just to say I use Bitcoin to support my family in Russia, or I use Bitcoin to receive donations from our Russian donors for our organization, and it immediately it's an eye-opening moment for those people who don't believe in Bitcoin. They're like, oh, I never thought about it. And this phrase I hear all the time, I never thought about it. So people just don't know, but for now there is more and more recognition of Bitcoin as a tool for freedom fighters.
When you see it working, it blows your mind. But if you just think about it, you don't see it.
How have the challenges faced in your countries influenced your views on Bitcoin?
Actually, in Italy, I think we're good in that. We don't like rules that much in Italy. There are other European countries more prone to obedience than Italians. So in my country, you see it, but you don't see it that much. Maybe it gets more strict when you travel north, like Scandinavia or Germany, for example. But yeah, the thing is that we have to be very careful when we discuss about freedom, because of course we complain a lot. Human beings tend to complain. Our democracies are not perfect. Our society are not perfect. Wait a second though, I hear this a lot, for example, in the Bitcoin Twitter, in our ecosystem. Democracies are a scam. Democracy is a scam. You don't vote, you vote, you don't vote, why you vote? The parliaments are a scam. Yeah, it's very easy to say something like this, comfortably sitting on an expensive design couch while you play with your PlayStation in a fancy first world home. Go there and see how life really is where there's no democracy, where
Absolutely.
human rights are completely forgotten. And then let's see, where would you like to live?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And also, since I travel quite a lot, I see this, I hear it quite often, unfortunately, especially in the United States, where people used to say, oh, we have quite similar situation as you have in Russia. And I'm like, no, you don't have anything even close to that. But it's true that people started normalizing the level of regulations that we have, especially like financial regulations. They think that it's completely normal that government interferes in your financial transactions, that they collect all your personal data when you transfer money. Because everyone forgot that before money was a free thing, it was a P2P thing. Everyone could just buy and sell stuff without this data to be controlled by the government. And people who live in I would say privileged democracies, they are so okay with those strict regulations, and it's a very thin ice. The government can regulate it, and they say that they want to do to protect you, but you should really notice the moment when government starts abusing these systems, and when you completely you're a conformist and you enjoy strict regulations, eventually you can become a victim of those regulations, of abuse of those systems. So I think that people even living in democracies must be very careful and have more critical thinking sometimes. But it's still, it's not even close to what we experience in oppressive regimes and dictatorships, where you have no right of protest, and if you don't like you don't like what's happening in your country, you go to protest and you immediately get arrested for that. You don't have this kind of problems in Europe or America, and yeah, the difference is huge between that.
Would you say people can't see the benefits of Bitcoin in their lives because it sounds too good to be true?
Depends. It's very hard to answer this question because depends. Human beings, I mean, we're individuals. So, in my personal experience, sometimes you see that, as Anna said, sometimes someone see Bitcoin working, and they immediately understand that this is something I can use to make my life better. For example, I'm thinking about all those countries where the vast majority of the population is either unbanked or underbanked, but maybe they have basic freedom in their country. Central America, for example, some countries in Central America. So their problem is they are secluded from the internet and from the digital global world because they don't have access to credit cards, digital payments. They get it straight away. This is something I can use in my daily life. But then sometimes you meet someone that lives in a more violent regime, and my feeling is that they are so scared, and their dignity is being taken away from them for so long that it takes time to get the trust back.
Yeah, absolutely. For example, in my country, I'm originally from Russia, and people are convinced by the regime that you shouldn't keep fighting because you will lose anyway. And some Russians just don't try to adopt new technologies or don't try to find these ways out of the situation just because they're convinced that it's not going to help them anyway. But my job is to help them to explain to them that this is a solution. You can still, for example, transact with the other countries with the help of Bitcoin, and it's going to be safe for you. But yeah, people who live in democratic states, they don't feel such an urgent need in these technologies. So sometimes they like think, why do I even need it? Or they prefer to use custodial tools, and because there is way more promotion, advertisement of custodial tools, and their mindset is like, I need to use custodial tools because it's safer, or they get used to the banking system. So it's way harder to do self-custody, even mentally, so they prefer custodial tools, and eventually they think, why do I even need to use Bitcoin with custodial tools if I can use just the banking system? Isn't it the same thing? And they just don't feel the need in that, and they don't think about profits of Bitcoin in their life. But what I see is that oppressive regimes, they actually boost Bitcoin adoption at a colossal level. What happened in Russia since Putin invaded Ukraine and Russia is cut off from the global financial system, there are financial sanctions in Russia. Since people lost this opportunity of transacting with other countries, they immediately adopted Bitcoin. Even older people who were afraid of new technologies, now they are able to use Bitcoin. So tyrannies actually, they help people to learn new technologies really fast.
Is it worthwhile to teach freedom fighters about stablecoins as a tool for financial stability?
So basically, I don't like maximalism in anything. I think that it leads to narrow-mindedness. You cannot just stick to one tool and forever. You should see different opportunities. And as a Bitcoin educator, I provide education for activists and nonprofits at the Human Rights Foundation. I have an online webinar for freedom fighters. And I see that one of the main concerns of newcomers, those who never used Bitcoin before, one of the first questions that they ask me, I'm afraid of Bitcoin volatility, and as an NGO, I'm afraid to operate entirely on Bitcoin. What if the price changes and we'll lose money? And those NGOs, they don't operate with big amounts, so they are small and quite fragile, and they are afraid of using Bitcoin because of volatility, for example. And my answer is, you can convert Bitcoin into stable coins if you're afraid of volatility. It could be a temporary solution for you, and as soon as you need Bitcoin again, you can convert it back. At least it's better than using fiat anyway. So Tether could be a solution for many cases, and we don't say stick to Bitcoin only and just be brave. You know, of course, we need to provide some other tools, and Tether could be a great solution.
Yes, and it's not about activists. I mean, everywhere you go in the emerging markets, stable coins are everywhere. Every time I travel in an emerging market, probably stable coins are way more adopted than Bitcoin in those areas of the world. And I'm not an ideologist. My job is literally travel and tell what I see. So that's undeniable. But I'm also old enough and I've seen enough to know that nothing is black or white. Yes or no, binary. Nothing is binary. It's always shades of gray. So she's right. On one hand, stable coins, they are an amazing alternative to dollar. Let's face it, everyone wants the dollar in emerging market. It's not even about stable coin. If they could choose, they'd rather have a dollar. If there was already an American CBDC widely available all over the world, easily accessible, that probably would kill the use for stablecoin on day one. Because the only reason why people buy stablecoins is because they cannot buy the dollar. That's why in places like Venezuela or Argentina, if you go in the black market, they buy dollars for twice, 3 times the price of a dollar. So everyone wants the dollar. The dollar is the king currency out there still. Since many governments restrict the access to dollar, that's when stable coins are a very useful tool to get dollar and kill volatility in the case of Bitcoin, but also more importantly, killing the volatility of your local currency if your local currency is hyperinflating. So that's why they are so widely adopted. But, there is a but. At the same time, by doing so, stable coins increase the demand for dollar. And in the long run, I don't think that is good. If you pay attention to what we've been doing, for example, in Africa or in the global south, the IMF, the World Bank, these huge loans, and that's a form of economic slavery. That's a form of economic colonialism. What we did in the past 60 years, we replaced the military colonialism with an economic colonialism, and that's probably even worse because it's more subtle, is more radical. The weapon that allows this to happen is the dollar. So that's why long-term the solution needs to be Bitcoin and cannot be a stable coin. Because stable coin solve the problem today, but they are somehow part of the problem in the long run. So they're good because nothing is black or white and everything is a shade of gray today. But in the long run, eventually, if we want the dollar standard to be obsolete, we will have to get rid of stable coins as well.
Yeah, it's a philosophical question. What's more important, what's happening today or the big picture? And it's really hard to have just one answer to this.
How can we get more Bitcoiners to realize the positive impact Bitcoin has on human rights activism?
When people say that Bitcoin is out of politics, I disagree with this. Maybe as an activist, I believe that politics is everywhere, and if you just try to stay apolitical, politics will come and knock on your door and take whatever you have. So you should really care of what's happening, and who is fighting for the better future is activists, freedom fighters. And if you work in the field of Bitcoin, if you're a creator, if you're a developer, you should think about not only like creating your business, but also about that you can contribute to bigger cause. You can contribute to building democracy in the world. And doing it together with activists is not necessarily a political act. So I think that actually Bitcoiners, whether they like it or not, they are activists. And it's great to know that we activists, we are not alone, that we have this huge Bitcoin community, those who help us in our struggles. And maybe some of developers don't realize your impact, your contribution to our struggles. And I'm grateful for your help, and I just want to say keep fighting together with us for the better future of the world.